I'm Marcia McMillan. Thanks for joining us this morning on CTV News Channel. Canada is looking to boost trade with its other North American trading partner, Mexico, as both countries try to work out a trade agreement with the volatile United States under President Trump. The meeting, which will involve Finance Minister Francois-Philippe Champagne and Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand, is taking place in Mexico City today and Wednesday. The talks are expected to cover not just trade, but the larger relationship between the two countries.
In terms of the throwing Mexico under the bus, back in November, the premiers of Ontario and the premier of Alberta were throwing Mexico under the bus in hopes of avoiding tariffs with the U.S. The Trudeau administration stood by while that happened. So this is certainly yet another reminder for Canadians of the importance of the third party in the NAFTA relationship.
All right, let's turn now to CTV's Colton Praill. He's standing by at our Ottawa bureau with more. So, Colton, good morning to you. Two Canadian ministers in Mexico talking trade. What are they hoping to achieve with this trip?
Yeah, really a lot of this is about the relationship. It's about building and strengthening that trade relationship. Mexico is our third largest trading partner, but they accounted for 1% of exports last year. We're talking about a trading relationship that's about $56 billion. And while that's nothing to shake a stick at, it's also not necessarily as big as it could be. I mean, there are a lot of products that that we're seeing, going to and from Mexico. There's a lot of room for growth, according to the trade experts that I was speaking to over the weekend, in a number of sectors outside of the traditional agriculture, auto parts sectors as well, especially in areas that Canada is looking to advance, like critical minerals and artificial intelligence. But beyond that, having a stronger relationship with Mexico, especially heading into the next year, could be incredibly strategically valuable for this Canadian government. We're looking at a potential review of CUSMA or the USMCA, the free trade agreement between Canada, USA, and Mexico next year. Donald Trump has been signaling for quite some time now that his preferred MO is to have bilateral trade agreements with countries. We have seen that, through this tariff dispute, this trade war that he has created with the entirety of the world. He wants to have individual deals on a country-by-country basis. And while he hasn't yet signaled a move to drop this trilateral trade agreement, if that is going to be something that the U.S. moves towards, it's something that Canada ought to be prepared for. And rather than find ourselves in a situation like we saw at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, where there were premiers talking about moving to a unilateral trade agreement, hurting the relationship with Mexico, things being a little fraught, a little contentious, it would be much more valuable for the Canadian government to have a strong relationship with the Mexican government so that there is an ability to communicate with our other North American partner when discussing and dealing with the United States and trying to find a path forward, given the interconnected nature of many of these industries, including the auto industry, which does involve all three countries. So there's immense value to that. It's not necessarily about leaving this with, some big agreement signed so much as it is advancing that relationship. And we've seen those efforts, calls between Claudia Sheinbaum and Mark Carney, the two leaders, the invitation and obviously the bilateral meeting at the G7. There have been efforts from these two leaders to signal that they're looking to strengthen the relationship. And this is the next step in that. And you're seeing that given the fact that these are two very senior ministers who are in Mexico City, but they're also expected to meet with President Claudia Sheinbaum. And that goes a long way to showing the importance of this trade mission and this trip overall to Mexico.
Meantime, some new data on trade has just come out. What can you tell us?
Yes, that's Canada's monthly and quarterly numbers coming out for merchandise imports and exports, both up in the month of June. But it's important to caveat that is very specifically in large part due to very significant imports. So exports up by about just shy of 1%, imports up by 1.4%, but there was a large offshore drilling or oil project that's happening in Newfoundland. They made about a $2 billion purchase of equipment, of machinery. That actually accounts for a pretty significant amount of the imports. If you leave that purchase out, we're actually looking at a 1.9% drop on the monthly data. The key things to highlight: exports to the U.S. actually going up this month. Trade with the U.S. going up this month. Exports up 3%, still down almost 13% year over year, though. So we're starting to see not necessarily a little bit of stability, but a shift in the tides. Imports also up from the U.S., that by about 2.5%. It's the first time we're looking at a jump in imports from the States in the last 3 months. Trade to non-American countries down 4%. Now, that's coming off a record month in May, so it's important to keep that in mind. Year over year, we're still looking at a change of about almost 15%. It's the first time we've seen this fall since February, but again, 15% year over year really shows that we are starting to see Canadian businesses and exporters look to diversify, find other trading partners. But again, important to caveat the fact that while that is still up quite significantly year over year, it is just a small portion overall of Canadian exports.
Colton, thanks for that. We'll check in with you later this morning.